The Laramie Project was definitely the most relatable play for my life that we've read thus far in this class. I think it really hit home for me just because of the setting specifically, just a small town, homogenous society that's facing big troubles. Even this story specifically was very similar to something that happened in my high school growing up. There was a 15-year-old student who had recently come out as gay, and he was severely beat up, and it was put on YouTube and ended up all over the national news for this tragedy that had happened. Some of the values that I see in this play, the first being ignorance. We see this phrase over and over, live or let live. This tolerance, maybe tolerance, just ignoring the problem at hand all over the city, really. And the second, justice. The parents of Matthew have to deal with what is justice? What does it mean for my son to have justice over this situation? And what does that look like for the people who did this to him? Something I looked into while reading that I didn't know before was that Wyoming was called the equality state because it was where a woman first casted the ballot. So that was interesting. And then, who is Laramie? Laramie as a character. It is a city, but looking at its character is a very interesting perspective to have. And going back to the values, I see it starting as this ignorant character. We see a lot of character development throughout, but it starts as this live or let live mentality. On the surface level, everything seems great. Maybe economically it's not doing great, but at least there's a strong, good community. But then tragedy hits and it has to redevelop. Okay, who are we? We see an interview where one of the girls says, people keep saying, but Laramie isn't this kind of town. And she goes on to say, well, if it wasn't this kind of town, then this never would have happened. And I think that's really what we see throughout the play is Laramie developing its identity. And could this happen in Columbus, a similar instance? And I think yes, I think it could happen in any city, any small town, or even big cities like San Francisco or New York. There's unfortunately always people that hate, and as much as we want to take that away, we can't ignore the fact that it is in our society everywhere. And a couple questions. Oh, actually, some of the structure of this play is much different from other things we have read, and I like the structure of everything's linked together and isn't very chronological, you could say. But I really like the way we have these interviews. It puts you in the story. It makes it feel more like a dialogue instead of a show being presented in front of you. It's much more authentic, and it also makes it feel like you're almost an eyewitness to what's happening in this city. And two questions I have is, how could a play like this be used to teach acceptance in school? And do you think hate crimes should have stronger penalties than regular crimes?